Hey there, gardeners. I believe that trees are an essential part of every landscape. Whether you're gardening, there's smaller trees for small gardens, there's bigger trees for bigger gardens, and they just serve such an important part of the garden. They provide us oxygen, they create leaves and foliage that eventually decays and becomes better soil. They feed birds. I mean, there's all kinds of really great reasons for trees. This particular one right here is an October Glory red maple, which has outstanding fall color. Just really cool, and I love those kind of things. So today in this video, I'm going to talk about 6 different types of seeds that I'm planting for trees that I'm going to integrate into my landscape in different areas. And my goal is to create a lot of good diversity on my property and kind of minimize the impact of a lot of the invasive plants that are here. I've got a lot of trees that I just need to cut out and remove, and I want to replace them with something that's a lot better. So let's take a look at what I'm going to do today, and I'll show you the seeds that I'm planning on planting. So the tree seeds I'm planting in this video all require the first step to be a 24-hour water soak, and that will help remove some of those natural growth inhibitors that are inside the seeds, as well as rehydrate them. You want to make sure that they've got plenty of moisture in order to trigger those germination processes. So that's the first step. Now the second thing that these seeds need is a period of cold stratification. Now there's 2 ways you can do that that are very popular. One, you can put them in a baggie with some sphagnum peat moss or coir and give it a little bit of moisture and then put it in the refrigerator for that cold stratification period. That works really well with a lot of seeds, but it's not the ideal scenario for some seeds. The other way you can do it, which I find to be a whole lot easier, is just to plant them in pots outdoors, let them get the natural flow of the weather. The thaws and the freezes, all that works to their benefit to eventually trigger germination. And so that's what I'm doing in this video. I had thought for a minute that maybe I'd do a comparison between the two, but as I was doing it, I realized it is just a superior method to just go ahead and do them outdoors. Now that being said, some seeds, like a Japanese maple variety I'm going to plant in this video, does require a period of warm stratification and then cold stratification. It asks for 120 days of warm and then 120 days of cold. And I'm getting that from these little seed packets here. See, I ordered most of these seeds online from Sheffield Seeds. They're not sponsored, no sponsorships here on this video at all. But I wanted to have more genetic diversity for the property, so I ordered some seeds. Now, one type of seed that I'm planting were Ginkgo trees, which I picked up locally off of a tree that had dropped some of the Ginkgo fruit. Word of advice on Ginkgo fruit: use gloves to pick up the fruit or a plastic bag or something, because it is really, really smelly. Not dead skunk kind of smelly, but still, it does not smell good. But anyway, let me go through what I'm actually going to be growing in this video. All right, now like the October Glory that I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, these are red maple seeds. And red maple is just another one of those beautiful maple trees that has really great fall color, a lot of great native benefits to planting them. We have a lot of sugar maples in our woods here, and I wanted to create some more diversity with some more color, different kind of tree lines and stuff like that. They probably will not cross hybridize between each other because they all flower at different times, and it probably just isn't going to work that way. So as you can see, the Sheffield Seeds packets here, they give you instructions on what you need to do as far as soaking, as far as stratification goes, and then how to actually sow them in here. Now keep in mind, seeds have a lot of variation in what they will tolerate, so these are kind of your best practices, but sometimes if you don't follow them exactly, they'll still germinate just fine. This particular packet came from Missouri, and this other one actually came from Tennessee. That's where the seeds were originated. And what's really nice about these is they do give you a relative germination rate, and they do that through a cut method where they actually cut into the seed and examine it for viability. And so about 91% of the seeds that they were getting appear to be viable. So that's probably a really good rate. So look at those rates when you're actually picking out your seed varieties. Older seed tends to have a lower viability rate. Fresher seed is going to be higher. That's just the way it works. Now this is a little bit more of a shrub, but it is a dogwood, and there are tree dogwoods that can be done the same way as this particular packet here of red osier dogwood, also called the red twig dogwood. They are beautiful plants in the wintertime. They just have these red stems that look amazing against an evergreen backdrop, or just even by themselves. They are really nice. You do need to kind of trim them back and keep them in a shrub form. That way they'll continue to replenish those stalks, the stems coming off of it. But anyway, you can check this out here. It's very similar to just what I did in the last video with the flowering dogwoods. Soak in water, let stand for 24 hours, cold stratify for 90 days, and then how to sow the seed, about 1/4 inch deep. So it's very easy to grow these, and these had a lower germination rate of 66%. So we could assume that we'll probably get around that many to germinate from our batch of seeds. Fall color is one of my primary goals on our property, and there's fewer trees that have better fall color than a black gum tree. They're a great native plant, beautiful burgundy and reddish fall colors, so they're definitely something I want to make sure we've got growing here. Again, it's the same kind of instructions as the maples. Soak in water, let stand, cold stratify for 90 days, sow the seed about 3/4 of an inch deep. So very easy to follow those directions, and hopefully we'll get some really good germination. And again, here it had a 91% cut rate for the germination. Now this is not a native plant, but it is a beautiful maple tree. It's a full moon maple, and I believe that's pronounced Osami. Full moon maple, Acer japonicum. And you can check here, this one's where we've got a little bit more of a difficult time with. We've got a warm stratify for 120 days, cold stratify for 120 days. So I am going to go ahead and plant these outdoors in the wintertime, and we'll see if we can satisfy that cold stratification period. They may not germinate in spring, and they may need some warm time after that. Generally, you want your warm period first and then your cold period, but we'll just kind of see what they do. 71% good germination based on their cut. Now, one of my favorite sub-trees or shrubs, whatever you want to call it, is the red Buckeye tree. They are gorgeous. They are hummingbird magnets. They produce these red flowers on stems that the hummingbirds are just drawn to. They look really good. They're also a really good understory tree, so if you're looking for something smaller in a semi-shady area, they are going to prefer a afternoon shade setting. So morning sun is fine, afternoon shade is best for them. And they're very easy to grow. I've grown them from our tree that we had on our other property. I've actually got one planted here already, but it did not produce any kind of seed, and I wanted to go ahead and start getting some more of them out there. So basically it's instructions, you soak them like the others, but they are larger size seed. Cold stratify for 30 days. And then you sow 1 to 2 inches deep into the soil. And this is important, I think, because I've found this to be true. The fall sowing in mulch beds is preferred to artificial stratification. So sowing them fresh in the fall is really the best time to get your red Buckeye seeds planted. If you put them in the refrigerator, I think you run the risk of maybe some dehydration happening, which can be detrimental to the actual seed germination when it's time. So definitely something to consider. Fresh is best when it comes to red Buckeye seeds. All right, so it has been 24 hours. The seeds have soaked, and I use that little sieve there to drain them out of their little containers, and I rinse them really good in there, making sure that any kind of tannins that might have been in the water are washed off. So the next step is to take them out into some pots that I've already got prepared, and we'll go ahead and put those out into the garden so that they can get their cold stratification time. So the Ginkgo tree seeds require one additional step, and that's usually just kind of to get through this outer coat here. We want to get rid of all that little bit of fruit pulp and kind of extract the seed from there. So all I'm doing is applying a little bit of pressure using this little fork, and it pops right out. That way I don't actually have to physically touch all that fruit junk and get all the ick back on my hands again. So right there, and here we go. We've got 6 seeds extracted from the pulp. I've got a few bits of pulp still hanging on there. That's probably not such a big deal. and they are ready to go ahead and get planted. So I've moved outdoors for planting, and it's a very windy day, so I really apologize for the wind noise if you've got some. But I'm just going to show you this right here. These are just simple little labels that I made from window blinds, just cut off the end and penciled in what they actually are. I put the date of planting on each one of these so I'd know exactly how long they've been in here when I come back out inevitably and forget sometime in February as to how long these have actually been in their pots. So we'll go ahead and get these planted now. So because these are trees, I went ahead and I got some of the biggest pots I had laying around the area, and I went ahead and I filled them up with, mostly these are fine bark shavings. In the very bottom layer, I've got kind of some crushed leaves, some crushed pine needles, just a mixture of some stuff to add some filler up here. I do plan to transplant these after they've gotten a little bit of size on them, maybe when they're about 6 inches to 8 inches tall, into their own individual pots once they start growing. But we don't know how many we're going to have growing, so I'm not going to plant them all out individually right now. This is just going to be able to keep everything nice and contained. So the first one we're doing is right in this pot here, and that's going to be our red Buckeyes. They've got some really large seeds, so I'm giving them the largest planter pot that I've got here right now. All right, so these are really cool seeds. Really love those red Buckeye trees, but you just go ahead and you plant them in the soil. You want to make sure that they are covered, probably at least 1 inch to 2 inches. Usually about 2 of those sections of one of your fingers will work just fine for them. So I'm going to just kind of plant them around. We've got 10 of these seeds in total to see who's going to come up and grow for us in the spring. And there's our red Buckeye. I'll water these. Once I get all these planted, I'll go ahead and water everything all at the same time, and then I'll give it a little bit of a cover with some row cover to kind of dissuade some animals from maybe getting into it. It's not foolproof. Probably hardware cloth is the better thing to use on top of it if you have a really bad squirrel or chipmunk problem. Next up are my 6 Ginkgo tree seeds, and I'm just going to sprinkle them right on top of the surface, spread them out a little bit so that they're not all right together. Put one in the middle and the rest around the sides, and then I'll do a little push and shove them down in about 1 inch to 1.5 inches into there. Generally 2 times the depth of the seed is just about right for these kind of seeds. Into each of these 2 small planters here, I'm going to put in the red maple trees. They're relatively easy to transplant, so once they've got a little bit of size, I can upsize them into individual pots really well. And I've got them labeled, so these are the Tennessee ones here in this container. And I'm just going to take the whole amount of them, and I'll just sprinkle them through on top. And then I'm going to kind of scuffle it up a little bit, mix up the top. And it's okay, if I get 2 or 3 that are next to each other, I can easily separate them out. And I'll probably come back and sprinkle a little bit of extra fine bark shavings on top of this. So we'll set that aside, and then I'll do the Missouri ones over here in the neighboring pot. And we'll mix them all up and in. Try to get them as evenly as we can with that method. And they just need to be in a little bit of the top layer of the soil mix here, because if you think about it, when these trees drop their seeds, they kind of float all around and then just land somewhere, and then they grow. And so we don't really need them terribly deep, but we need them deep enough that they're going to make good moisture contact and have a spot where they can kind of touch their roots down into. So next up, we'll go ahead and put in the Nyssa or the black gum seeds. We'll just set them into this pot here, and I'll do it pretty much the same way. They're about the same size seed as what you get with the Japanese maple seeds when you have the wings cut off of those. But right there you can see those beautiful little seeds right here with all the little stripes on them. They're pretty cool looking. So I'm going to sprinkle them around the pot, and then just make sure that they are settled into a good nook somewhere. Kind of spread them out a bit. Maybe shove them a little bit into the soil mix. Okay, and just make sure that they're lightly covered. A little bit of a layer here is good. On the instructions, they say 3/4 of an inch deep. So, maybe tamp it down just a little bit, push it in, and then put a little bit more soil on top of that. Into this container will go the red twig dogwood, and again we'll do the same thing. We're just kind of scattering them in here, mixing them into soil surface, spreading them out a little bit. So, and if you see any that are sticking up, just kind of push them in to the ground. We'll water everything here in just a few minutes. And don't forget to label these guys. Here's the red twig dogwood right here. And our last seed selection is the Osami full moon maples. So we're going to set these into this container there. Now, whenever you have maple trees, you don't have to keep the wings on. You can take them off, get rid of them, or you can just leave them on. They'll decay on their own. They're not really a big deal either way. So it just takes extra time to remove those things, but you can if you want to, not a problem. So I'm going to spread these out throughout this container and get a nice even coverage, and hopefully we'll have a whole bunch of Japanese maples here. But they gave me quite a few seeds here, so hopefully this will all grow really nice. We'll have a bunch of cool little trees to put in the yard. So before I do any kind of covering on it, I'm going to give these guys a nice soaking, let each of the pots get nice and wet. We are also about to get some rain here again, I think. It seems to have been a pretty rainy December so far, but that's always good for when you're growing these plants. So we'll give them all a good dose of water. I'm just kind of lightly watering them first, and then I'll give them a deeper water in a minute, just kind of breaking it up into sections. So here you can see I've wrapped them with a little bit of row cover, just tying them off on the top of each of those pots. Now that'll be good for the birds to protect them, but I'm in a more secure location and I don't have a whole lot of rodents coming up here onto our porch. But if you do have rodents, you're going to want some sort of a wire cover to cover them, or some other kind of area that's going to protect them a little bit better than just the row cover. Somebody mentioned that in the last video I did this on, and that was a good point, so I did want to make sure I mentioned that this time too. So make sure you like and subscribe. That way you can see how these plants all start to do and start to grow in the springtime. I actually have some viburnums coming up for my Brandywine viburnum, and I'm really excited to see how all these new plants do in the spring. So thanks for watching. This is Dave with Growing the Home Garden. We'll catch you next time. And so here we are with all our seeds planted. We've got a lot of the tree stuff right here behind me. Those are a little bit more shrubs that I planted from the last video. And just a quick word here. When you have this kind of netting or this kind of a cover that you're putting on them, that'll probably prevent your birds and stuff just fine. But if you've got higher pressure from rodents like squirrels, chipmunks, rats, whatever it might be, then you're going to want something a little bit more sturdy, some sort of hardware cloth on them that's a little bit better protection. Or put them into a spot where they are less accessible. And that's kind of what I've done here by putting them up here in this little porch area. I keep it away from where the squirrels and the chipmunks really are. They're off in the woods getting all the oak tree acorns and stuff. And over here, they're not really bothering stuff, at least for right now. We'll hope that stays that way. But anyway, hope this video was interesting for you. If it was, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here on Growing the Home Garden. Thanks for watching.